Blood, Bilge, and Iron Balls, a tabletop game of naval battles in the Age of Sail, by Alan Abbey. This was recommended to me by Henry Hyde in his book Wargaming Campaigns. He mentions that he has a good time with his rule set, so I bought the Kindle version, and I liked it so much I wanted to give it a shot. It's a little weird, and I had to get the hard copy because I'm filming on my Kindle. So in order to be able to reference the rules while I'm filming, kind of had to get the hard copy. And I'm glad I did, because it'll be a useful reference. Today we're going to do just a simple, small little battle. I'm going to walk you through the rules here to begin with, and then we're going to do a simple fight between what do we got here? We got, on the left-hand side, we've got the HMS London, and this is a historical engagement. And on the right-hand side, we've got the Marengo. That's a French vessel. Now, the Marengo is a 74-gun ship of the line, and the HMS London is a 90-gun ship of the line. We are fighting a historical engagement. It took place on the 13th of March in 1806. The Marengo, French 74-gun, under Charles Lenoir, blunders into a convoy, what he thinks is a convoy of ships. It's actually not a convoy of ships. It's 7 British ships of the line. He says, ruh-roh, no thank you, because he is seriously outgunned. Unfortunately for him, the HMS London, a 90-gun vessel under Admiral John Warren, was able to catch up to her and force the Marengo to do battle. Now, historically, the Marengo struck her colors, surrendered after suffering several dozen deaths. This is not a fair fight. A 74-gun vessel against a 90-gun vessel is not really a fair fight. And that, I think, is one of the keys of historical Age of Sail gaming. The fair fights that we all know about are enormous affairs. 80 ships of the line versus 90 ships of the line, plus 50 frigates on each side. How are you going to manage that much? Right? It's really hard to find a little one-on-one fight. I found one by, digging deep into the history. I surfed infogalactic.com. It's like Wikipedia if Wikipedia didn't have AIDS. Infogalactic.com. So I found this battle, the 13th of March. There's a bigger battle that took place off Hispaniola in 1782. And that one I'm gonna run a couple of French ships versus 3 British ships. What you'll find is that it's really hard to find, like a lot of the engagements for vessels of this size, because it's a fair fight, nobody wants to engage in a fair fight, particularly not with billion-dollar vessels. I'm adjusted for inflation. These are very complicated, very expensive ships. Nobody wants to be responsible for losing one. So the only time you really find a fight like this is where, in this example, Charles Lenoir, he's on the Marengo, and he makes a terrible mistake, and he even tries to escape, but he doesn't. The Marengo is captured. So the other thing is, if you go look at kind of the online histories and some of the books, and the reason I'm saying this is, if you want to write a valuable source book for miniature wargaming, go into the Age of Sail. Find like 30 to 50 fair fights between a handful of vessels, and man, I'm telling you, that would be like gold, because most of these Age of Sail games, unless you oversimplify the boats way down to the point that they really feel more like checkers than Age of Sail, or if you're at a convention and you're willing to have 15 guys around a table, each one managing 3 or 4 ships, then you get the feel of the Age of Sail. But, for the average Joes, a couple of guys around a table, the most they can handle is 3 or 4 ships apiece. Not a lot of engagements like that out there. You really got to go digging. So and if one of you knows of a book like that, hit me up, because I would be in the market for it. As I said, so let's talk a little bit about Blood, Bilge, and Iron Balls. We're going to go through the rules in a little more detail today. I think a 1v1 fight is going to be fairly short so that we have a little bit more time to talk about the rules. The first thing I'll mention is this is the damage deck. And our quick reference sheet looks fairly simple. Let's cover cannon fire because it's right there. It's at the top of the sheet. It's very easy. Up to point blank range, you roll a d6 for every cannon and you hit on a 2 or better. Up to 6 inches, you hit on a 3 up, and then you basically get a -1 for every 6 inches past that. If you're in heavy seas, if your gunner is killed, you're firing carronades, or if you're trying to disable a ship by targeting the sails, it's -1 of those rolls. So we'll talk a little bit more about what that means with a gunner as we look here at the ship's roster. But before we get into that, these cards are the activation cards. In Blood, Bilge, and Iron Balls, you have 6 phases, right? We got 2 vessels here. The red cards are for the activation of the London. The black cards are for the activation of the Marengo. And the Joker will be for repairs, the Kings will be for movement, and the Ace will be for shooting. So on any given turn, we're going to mix these up, and then we're just going to turn them over one at a time. And so red vessel, that's going to be, the red ace is going to be shooting for the British. Black Joker, the French ship can make repairs. If it doesn't have to make repairs, fine, it's a pass. And then we go through all three. So in any given turn, you're going to be able to move, shoot, and effect repairs, but you don't know what the order is yet. This does mean it's possible for one ship to fire 2 volleys back to back. If they have the last card this turn, the first card next turn, but you can't predict that. And hey, these are the vagaries of war. I think there's an actual line in this book where Alan Abbey says, "That's not fair. So is life. You figured it out." Let's take a closer look at the ship record. This is where the meat and potatoes of the game and the rules are contained. Very evocative of old school Car Wars, maybe even Battletech, although I've never played that game, so you'd have to correct me on that one. All of the ship systems are contained on here, and I really think this is where the fun is. These stars are the ship's crew. Every time you get hit by a cannon, you cross off 1 point of the star. Cross off the last star, and then as the battle goes on, these guys are going to wear out. If you get hit in the guns, you cross off a gun, and then you can't, so if we lose all of our guns on the larboard side, or the port side, you can't shoot on that side. We have 3 masts. Notice how there's actually 5 sails right here. There's 1, 2, 3 masts, each of which has 5, call them hit points, okay? With every hit on a mast, we're going to cross off 1 of these. For every hit on the hull, we're going to cross 1 off. If we take a hit to the Marines, that's what these stars are here. The Marines, of course, are primarily interested in sniping at enemy vessels that are at point-blank range or for boarding actions. We have a command star here, and the command star has 6 points. These are the ship's officers. As we cross off points, it becomes harder to control the vessel. In fact, it says right here, if all of the points are out after your repair phase, you strike colors. If any of these are out, that means we have suffered enough damage to our command and control of the vessel that when we want to make a change in direction or speed, we have to roll a d6, and we're only successful on a 5 or 6. Now, you can repair these systems, and we'll get to that in a minute, but let me just finish going around the horn here. This is the rudder, and if you have any damage to the rudder, it could be the chains, it could be to the complicated system of pulleys. If you have any damage, you can't turn. That could be a problem. Then we have 3 more interesting little systems down here. We have the ship's gunner that takes 2 hits. On the second hit, and this doesn't just represent like the gunnery officer, it represents the veterans in the vessel as well. If you cross off the entire star, suddenly you have a -1 to all of your shooting dice. This is the sailing master. When both of these are crossed out, you don't have as much, you're not able to set the sails to take full advantage of the wind. And then we have a carpenter who, if these are crossed out, you will be less likely to effect repairs. And repairs are a big part of this game. Remember, we have an opportunity to repair our vessel during every single turn. And to effect repairs, what you'll do is, for every full star that you've got of crew, you roll a d6. And on I want to say it's a 5 or 6. I could be wrong about that. I'll double check. Why don't I look at my reference sheet? Because it's actually not listed on here. All right, well, we'll add that by hand. Anyway, there's a couple more things we're going to talk about. So here's our ship's speed, and the sailing master comes into play here. If we have our sails set to half sail, then, and I guess I should point out, if you're at full sail, you can turn 2 points. And when I say point, I mean clock face. There's 12 different headings that you can be on. If you're at full sail, you can change heading twice. If you are at half sail, you can change heading 3 times. So half sail gives you a lot more maneuverability, but yeah, as you can see, it does slow you down. In the case of the HMS London, when all 3 masts are intact, under full sail, she can move 10 inches per turn and make those 3-point turns in one direction during any point in her movement. At full sail, she can only turn twice. At half sail, she can move 6 inches, but she can turn a full 90 degrees. And she can make each of those 30-degree turns whenever she wants. If the sailing master is damaged, if he's out, then you use the figure in parentheses, which at full sail, you go from 10 to 8, and at half sail, you go from 6 to 4. If one of your masts is shot away, you use this second line here, so you will go slower. And if your third mast is shot away, you'll move even slower. Obviously, Last thing to talk about here is fire control. These cards might set fires, our little damage deck here. It's likely that we will set fires to the ship, and it doesn't really matter where they are. What you'll do is you'll put a little X here, what I'll do, and as you'll see, and that's fine. We're okay for the first 5, and then if I have to start more fires, we may be at 5 here, and 4, and 2. If we get to here, I have to draw another damage card. And if I get to here, I have to draw another damage card. If I get all the way to this side, fire rages. Draw 2 damage cards per turn for each raging fire. So every one of these that gets fully crossed off, the ship must be more than 25 inches from the nearest enemy to control, and roll 1d6 per turn. If we have any of these full rows crossed out, the ship explodes if equal to or less than the number of raging fires. So I have 3 raging fires that have already been all crossed off. There's a 50% chance each turn that it reaches the ship's magazine and we go full core meltdown. Notice, now as I said, on repair, we're going to make our repair rolls. The little crossed out gray boxes here, if we take damage to the hull, we can repair that damage, except we can't repair the gray boxes. So once we fall below this point, there's nothing you can do. Likewise, if I've only lost 1 damage to my ship's gunnery captain, I can repair that 1. But if I cross off the whole star, that means they're all wiped out, and I'm going to be at -1 for the rest of the game. 1 single repair will wipe out all of the fire for that HMS London. When you board, yeah, that gets complicated. Let's just, and by the way, catching up to somebody and actually boarding them, that takes some time. So let's just set that aside for the moment, and let's get to playing the game proper. The wind is to the due east. As you can see, the Marengo is in the black sails. This is from Tumbling Dice, and I even wrote on the bottom, 74 guns. This is an 80-gun miniature. I don't have a 90-gun vessel, so we're just going to use the 80-gun. It'll be fine with the HMS London. As you can see, I've already put I am using our fighting sail wind direction, due east, and we'll talk about how maneuvering and all that works when the time comes. For now, we're going to turn over the first card. Remember, it is move, shoot, and repair on a king, ace, and joker. So, since there's no damage, the joker doesn't really do much here in this first turn, and then the red card will be for the British. Move, shoot. So the British do have an opportunity to fire here. But for the purposes of this game, they don't actually have any cannons on there. They don't have any like bow guns or stern guns, so again, that doesn't do them much good. The French doesn't do them much good. Hey, now our British get a chance to move it. We need to talk a little bit about how maneuvering works in Blood Bilge and Iron Balls. The rule book provides this handy little movement. And one thing I'll point out, full speed, not quite. When the wind's directly at your stern, then the rearmost sail blocks the wind from filling the other 2 sails. Technically, I think that you should be at 2/3 speed here, and then when you're in this area, this is the ideal, but whatever, these are the rules that we've listed. You can print this off. The penandsword.co.uk has all of these if you have multiple sides and you want to do sailing, firing, and repair, so you don't have to translate from cards. And also all of these ships' records, I just downloaded them directly from pen-and-sword.co.uk. But so this is, and then you can't move directly into the wind like that. So, you got to tack back and forth as usual. And there are fancy rules for wearing and tacking, but for today, we're just going to remember that, as long as if the wind is off this quarter, if it's at all in your rear quarter, and that's why these guys are at 45 degrees, they will be able to move at full speed, but it may be 2/3 or even half speed if you're going into the wind. So bear that in mind. But we need to look at our speed. Remember that we currently have all 3 of our masts. So the HMS London under full sail, and because this is a pursuit, we'll start them off at full sail. He will be able to move 10 inches, and he can turn as many points as he wants, so long as he does all of his turning in the same direction. Lucky for us, hey, look at that, 30 degrees. The question is going to be, do we want to turn into the wind or with the wind? First things first, and then you can use these points of turning at any point in your turn, unless your sailing master is dead, in which case you have to move it. Oh, by the way, you have to move that full 10 inches at full sail. So if we go from stern to stern and we bring him the full 10 inches up to here, then we can turn up to 90 degrees. Bear in mind, the French are going to get a chance to turn. So instead of turning the full 90, I'm going to use, and again, my fighting sail turn gauge has a 30 degree. So I'm going to go ahead and line it up, and I'm just going to turn 60. I don't want to be going into the wind. That puts me at half speed. And you can, the other thing I should point out is I could reduce to, I'm just going to go with the 30 degrees for now. I could adjust my sailing speed up or down by 1 per track. So in other words, I can go from full sail to half sail, 1 step per turn for every sailing card that you get. And then we are at 0 speed, and then A is at anchor. So I think that's good. We're going to leave him right there. We know that there's going to be a repair phase, and we know that the French are going to get an opportunity to sail as well. The French have realized that the jig is up. They are caught. So what we're going to do with these guys, they are at full sail right now. They're going to step down to half sail. And because their sailing master is right where he needs to be, we're going to go ahead and we got to move the full 10 inches this turn. So that's going to put some serious distance. Well, we're going to maintain that 12 inches of distance between each other, right? So maybe, what do you think? Do we come around this way and try to present our starboard broadside to the London? We're just experimenting. I'm going to move the 5 inches, the first 5 of my 10, and then we'll turn 60 degrees. We'll move another 5 inches, and that puts us to here, and we'll turn the other 60 degrees like so. And I think that's probably pretty good for this turn. Now, we have a whole ocean to work with here, and I'm dealing with a 2-foot table. So I'm going to bring everybody back and over a little bit, just adjusting the relative position on the screen. I have shuffled the cards, moved my ships. The French ship is still at full sail, by the way. They are sailing just slightly into the wind. The British are at fighting sail, which means we should take a look at the firing gauge. It looks a little something like this. Line up the little gauge with the mast, and then it's, well, what's the angle here? What is it? Thanks for the help there, Alan. Couldn't you tell me what that angle is so that I could know whether it's 30 degrees or not? I think it looks like about 45 degrees. I think we're just going to go ahead and, as long as it's the same for everyone, I think we'll be all right. We will drop our fire arc down from fighting sail. I think it's close enough. Although he wants us to go from mast to mast. And that means that our French, having turned just slightly more... Wait, they should both be on the same heading now. They were on the same heading before. Might have... Oh, no, because he only turned once. The London turned 30 degrees. The Marengo turned 60. And that just brings the London into his fire arc. Now we check the range of firing, and they are beyond 6 inches. So the Marengo gets the first shot off in this battle. And because we are at up to 12 inches, he will be hitting on a 4, 5, or a 6. Taking a look at that ship's record, let's count. Obviously, we are on the port side. We get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dice. Hitting on 4s. And they get a total of 1, 2, 3 hits altogether. The first thing we need to do is cross off 3 of the damage stars, and we apply them all to the first star on the left-hand side of the board. Then, because we had 3 hits, we have to draw 3 damage cards: a 6 of hearts, a 10 of clubs, and a 3 of hearts. Referring to our quick reference sheet, we find that the 3 of hearts, so the hearts do hull damage, and you have to apply these in a specific order. The order in which they are drawn is important. So the first thing is a 6 of hearts. Our hull takes 1 hit. Then with the 10 of clubs, all of the clubs are rigging damage. The 2 of the mast boxes are damaged. We'll cross them off. And then with that last heart is the 3 of hearts. We have a fire started. As you can see, we've crossed off 2 masts. Now, it doesn't matter which mast you start with, but you have to cross off all of the masts on one cluster before you start on another one. You can't mix and match, go 1 here and 1 here. You don't randomly allocate them. I mean, you could house rule that if you wanted to. But we have our 2 hull damage, and then we have 1 fire. Now, every repair phase that this is not put out, it will grow 1 time. So we have a little bit of time. we can hold off on that. And that's it. It's just that simple. Some of you are wondering, well, what if I do a bow rake? What if I do a stern rake? What if I cross the T? Well, if it is a bow rake, you draw 2 cards for every hit. If it is a stern rake, you will draw 3 cards for every hit. And that's all there is to it. Next card is going to be the Red King. Now, the British get to do their movement. Remember, they are at half sail. They're only going to get to move a total of 6 inches. Because they don't have any damage to... Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, because they still have 3 masts. Because they don't have any damage to the captain or to the sailing master, they will still be using this half speed, 6 inches. Because they're at half speed, they can turn a total of 3 times. And in fact, that being the case, why don't we, at any time in their movement, why don't we go ahead and turn them the full 90 degrees right now? If we line this up... Oh, we don't want to go the full 90. Instead, what we'll do is we'll go 30, 60, and then move the full 6 inches. So there's our 6 inches right there to there. And if we check our firing range, so look at that. So now we do have our bow rake. If this is the red ace, it's not going to go well. All right, well, the French are just going to be able to get out of the way. Remember, they are sailing just a little bit into the wind. Checking our turn gauge, they will be moving at half speed. However, because they're operating at full sail at this point, I think now we'll go ahead and bump them down. Because they're at full sail, they're going to be moving 5 inches this turn. They can only change heading twice, so we'll go ahead and try to get them 1. We'll line it up 2. We'll get them on a little better line. What do you say? And then they can move the 5 inches from, and I'd go from 4 to 9, from there to there. So they are starting to affect their escape. That's it for movement for them, and then we have repair phase. The black joker is for the undamaged ship. The red joker is for the damaged ship. Now, let's take a look at how the repair phase works. We have a total of, if you have any dots left, it turns out, you can check. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 crew stars. We get a total of 9 dice to try to effect some repairs. You have to allocate what you're trying to repair first. We got a total of 9 altogether. Let's not worry about the fire control. Let's try to repair the hull. There's some damage to the hull. For every 5 or a 6, we will be able to repair 1 hull point. We didn't get any, and then the other 4 will go towards the ship's crew. So if we can get a couple of those back, we'll be doing good. So with all 9 dice, we only got 1 repair, and we sent a couple of shirkers who were down in the medic. We sent them back to work. Hey, that's just a splinter. You'll be fine. And then to end the turn, we've got, of course, the red ace, which will be firing for the British, but the British they don't have a good shooting arc. It's the end of the turn. And once again, we've given ourselves a little bit more ocean while trying to maintain a consistent heading and separation between the 2 vessels. We shuffle our turn deck, and to start things off, the British are going to get another attempt to fix all that damage. They want to try to repair the masts this time. 2, 4, 6. They're going to do 7 for the mast, 2 for the hull, and they are going to repair all 3 did both of the damage for the masts, and then they have 2 more checking the hull. One of those hull damage boxes goes away. Remember, the masts is not just the mast, it's also the rigging, everything holding it up. The black ace is going to be the French getting an opportunity to fire, but of course they don't have anybody in their fire arcs, so the French will get to sail. I didn't say whether or not they were stepping down. We're going to step them down to, no, I did say they're stepping down to half sail. They get to move a total of 6 inches and make those 2 movement points. They are now going to be at 3/4 speed, meaning, so what does that mean? 18, we got to do some math. For every inch, they would be moving 3/4 of an inch. So 6 of those is going to be, 24 is going to be 4 inches altogether. That would be 2/3. It would be 4.5. So they're just going to tootle on up to there and get some distance behind them. And then the British are going to get to sail their full 6 inches, and they're happy going like so. What do we got here? I'm checking the firing arc. Still not in the fire arc. They could probably turn one more time and take a shot. What do you think? We want to do that? Do we want to? The French are probably going to get away, but this is as close as we're going to get. And we know that's right. They've already fired, so we know there was a shot coming up. Are they going to get into that rear arc? I think they will. So here's our we've turned. We're very close. The HMS London there's 8 inches away, so they are going to be hitting on 4s or better. But the HMS London now has an opportunity, and they've got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 ships, 9 cannons on that side of the vessel. So they will be able to fire 9 dice, hitting on 4s, and even better, because they are firing into the Marengo's stern, for every hit, they'll still only do 1 damage, 1 crew damage. Bring that over here. So 1 damage to the crew, but they will draw 3 cards because it's a stern rig. So we get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits. And this could be devastating. So the first thing that you'll notice is that the crew star has a total of 7 points. So we'll cross off all but 1 of those points on the first crew star. We know from induction, we can infer that repair will come up next, but this is going to be ugly because our first hit is going to do 3 cards worth of damage. And we'll work through this one more time. Hey, we've got Queen Liliuokalani there on our cards. So again, the 4 of diamonds will be first. And that means we've got the steerage gear is hit. That's our rudder back here. So we cross off 1 point. Then we have a 2 of clubs, which means, no damage. How about that? Again, we're checking against this. So no damage for the 2 of clubs. And then that Queen of spades, I bet that's going to be ugly. Spades is always gun damage. 1 gun and 2 crew are hit. So that's just the first of our dice. 1 gun, and which gun would it be? Because it's on the stern, I'm going to roll a d6, and on a 1, 2, or 3, it'll be on the port, and on a 4, 5, or 6, it'll be on the starboard. So that gun is knocked out of action, and we have 2 more crew hits. So the first star is gone, and once a star is gone, you can't affect any more repairs to that star. For the second hit, we draw 3 more cards. 7 of hearts, 9 of diamonds, and the ace of spades. In this case, and I'm just gonna go do the next 5 because I think this is gonna be ugly, and I'll show you what the total effects are. But that 7 of hearts, zoom in on that a little better. So the 7 of hearts is gonna be 1 hull box. The 9 of diamonds is going to be 3 crew, and the ace of spades will be the gunner is killed. And if he's already dead, then 2 guns and 3 crew. Here are the next 4 hits in order. We've got a king and a king, and then the joker, and this is why the order matters. Notice that with the black joker, we have something called an inferno. You lose 5 crew, advance all fires 2 points. So any fire that was already existing would go up by 2 points. And then you add 2 more. Well, when we get down to this red joker, you have what's called an explosion. Lose 5 crew, draw 5 more damage cards for the ship that drew this card immediately. So technically, I probably should have held off on applying this lost gun because we still have 5 more cards to go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what a batch of cards that is. So after applying those 5 damage cards, wow, this is going to be a short battle. We started 1 more fire, but since all of our tracks are full, we advanced the topmost fire 1 space. And then we lost a whole lot of hulls, so we can't repair. We lost our sailing master and our gunnery master. So all of our cannon fire is going to be at -1. Notice we also took a point of command damage. When we try to fire our guns for each gun, we will roll, and it will only be able to fire on a 4, 5, or a 6. Be that as it may, we are now on to the repair phase for the Marengo, and boy howdy does she need it. Let's see how many dice we get. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can roll 4 dice. What's our priority? I think we got to put this fire out first. Our carpenter is still alive, so we are still going to succeed on a 5 or a 6, and we're going to try to put that top fire out. And we failed. And I should allocate the other 2 dice before that as well. And we got to try to get our commanders back, find out who's in charge. So again, on a 5 or a 6, and we fail across the board. I can't find anywhere in the rule book where it states how often to shuffle the damage deck. I'm going to do it at the start of every turn. Speaking of which, it's the start of the next turn, and ace means it's going to be, oh boy, it's red shoots again, and since the ships haven't moved at all, we are still in a situation where we've got 3, 6, 9 shots hitting on 4s, and we're going to draw 3 cards for every hit. This time around, the shooting is not quite as good. I guess the gunners were rushed trying to get that second shot off. It's only going to be 2 hits. Well, 2 hits is still pretty good. We start off by crossing off 2 of our crew points. And then we have to draw a total of 6 cards. And we get 4, 2, queen. And this is how we'll apply the damage. And with that, the Marengo takes a total, their crew, they're down to just 3 crew. They're down to, they're taking on water, but they are a wounded beast, but they still have the power to lash out. They've got 4 guns to the port, 5 to the starboard. We still need to be careful. On the next, when we rolled the repair for this, any fires that were not put out advance 1 track. And we actually have to draw an extra card, because that means we're up into this square here. So that's draw an extra card, and the rest of these are now 1, 2, 3, 4. So she is in big trouble. And that next card, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We get a 9 of spades for that one, and 9 of spades means 1 gun and 1 crew hit. And that being the case, it's going to be on a 1, 2, 3, it'll be on that side. So we are down to 4 guns on a side, and we lose 2 more crew. And things are looking worse for the Marengo. But it is the London's turn to try to effect repairs. They only have to put out this fire and 1 hull, and then they'll be back to tippy top. So we're going to roll 4 dice to see if we can put out that fire. And we do. And then we'll roll 5 dice to fix our hull. And we do. The London still does have a couple of guys that are laid up in sickbay, but we can survive that because it looks like this fight is largely over. Maybe, anything can happen. Let's take a look. So there's our damage cards out of the way. That fire did not spread, and now here we go. So boy, oh boy, we've only got 1, 2, 3 damage crews. We have to try to put this fire out. If we don't put this first fire out, that's going to be the end of the ship. And with a 5, bear in mind our Carpenter's still alive. So the 5 does succeed in at least putting this fire out. And I guess we've preserved the prize money for the British, the captain of the HMS London. Now he wants to get in there and try to take it, not just sink it. So who is that? It's old Admiral John Warren. He's down for that. Maybe we can bring him into position. However, because we have these fires still raging, they advance 1 step. Yeah, it's looking pretty ugly for them, isn't it? The British ship now gets to move, and they get to move 6 inches. Man, we like where we're at. We'd like to stay there, but we just can't. And they're in tip-top. They're in fine form. So we'll go ahead and start by getting them. We want to try to close and see if we can do some boarding action. So we'll turn them to 30 degrees. They're at half steerage, and we'll bring them up the 6 inches to here. And can we shoot at them? We check mast to mast in this game. This is really the better way to do it. We don't have a fire, but neither a shot, but neither does the Marengo. And the Marengo now gets to move, and the Marengo will move at. So here we have that case where, because their foremast is shot away, they are going to be moving on this track, and they are at half speed. But their sailing master has also been put out of action, whether he's dead or wounded, we'll find out later, which means we use the number in parentheses. They can only move, the Marengo can only move 2 inches. And we're going to do that. Now, because he's gone, they can move up 1 inch. Then they can move, wait a minute, no they cannot, because they took 2 damage to the steerage. So all they can do is move forward 2 inches. And this is how, in this game, boarding actions are a lot more likely. The ace of spades means the Marengo gets to fire, but they don't have any targets within their fire arc. So we will shuffle the deck, reset the position, give ourselves a little bit more space to work with. And for this turn, the red joker means the British get to do some damage control. The only damage they have is a couple of ship's crew that are shirking. And now they don't have any damage at all because they rolled a couple of 5s. The Marengo gets to shoot. There's nobody within her fire arc. The Marengo has to deal with damage, and this is where the Marengo really takes it on the chin. She has 4 fires that are still burning and are going to advance into the drawing damage phase. They get 3 chances. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and we're going to try to put out fires on a 5 or a 6. So one of those fires will be put out. It doesn't really matter which one. But they still have 3 fires that are now going to advance into the draw a damage card. 1, 2, and 3. And of course, the Jack of Spades is going to result in a gun and 2 crew hit, and we'll roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So a gun takes a hit, and they're down to just 2 crew stars. The 7 of Diamonds is a 3 crew hit, and the 2 of Spades is another fire has started for them. And then what did we say that 7 was? Was that 1 gun? No. 7 of Diamonds, 3 more crew. 1, 2, 3. And that's it for that. The red vessel now gets to move, and he will move 6 inches. He is going to start by turning the 60 degrees, and then we'll bring him up alongside. 6 inches brings him to here. When you have a purposeful collision, both ships stop. And then, on any subsequent sailing phase, the ships will drift 1 inch in the direction the wind is blowing. We have a red card, which means, oh, look at that. That's the last card of the turn. Before we get to the boarding action itself, the British ship can elect to fire her broadside 1 more time. We're not going to do that. We're going to opt not to fire because the British want to take the Marengo as a prize. Now that we're at the end of the turn, we can go through the boarding sequence proper. At the start of the round, you compare the number of Marine sections. Because the Marengo has 2 Marines and the London has 2 Marines, they cancel each other out. If the London had 1 more Marine, they would get to take an initial shot, and on a roll of a 5 or 6, they would wipe out 1 crew star. That's not going to happen because our Marines are even. The London now has to decide how many crew are they going to attack with. And they're going to attack with both of their Marines complements, and then they've got a total of 9 crew stars going up against the 2 crew stars for the defender. Let's go ahead and just go all out. We're going to bring 5 of our crew with us on this initial assault. The attack begins with those Marine sections. The red dice will be for the Marengo, the blue dice for the London. On a result of a 4, 5, or 6, you cross off a full crew star. The Marines didn't do much. Now we're going to roll for the 2 crew stars for the Marengo. There's only 2 surviving, and it's full or partial. And then we're bringing 5 dice for the London. And because these are crews, not Marines, we're only going to kill on a 5 or a 6. The Marengo manages to kill 1 crew star, and the London dishes out 3 more damage of their own. Well, we know that the Marengo only had 2 left, so the Marengo winds up striking her colors. Because that is the 1 star, you work right to left. So instead of wiping out a full star, the Marengo will just complete the partially filled star. If they had rolled a 5 and a 5, you would cross off both of those crew stars. But as it is, they just rolled a 1, so we just completed the one that was not complete. If the defender kills more attackers than crew stars it loses, it is considered to have beaten off the attack. So if we had 2 to 1, the defender could then sail away on their next sailing phase. But the attacker beat more than the defending, then the boarding action can continue to the next round, as the attacker still has the advantage. If it's an equal number of crew stars, the fight is drawn, and you continue into the next round. In this case, because the Marengo lost their last crew star, they have struck the colors, and now the British are going to help them put out all these fires, so they can take the Marengo, as they historically did, back to harbor, fix her up, and put her back into action against old... Well, wait a minute. Is this Bonaparte? I don't think it is. What year is this? 1806. Oh, yeah, they're going after him, ain't they? And there you have it, Blood, Bilge, and Iron Balls. A fairly simple game of Age of Sail. Everything is laid out nice and neat for you. And the ship rosters really do a phenomenal job of creating the sense of trying to stay in the fight as long as you possibly can. Bear in mind that, this is when the ship is most effective. So just because we've crossed off all 3 of our masts, it doesn't mean that she's been completely dismasted. She is just unable to sail any longer. It could be all the rigging is shot away. It could be her sails have burned up in a fire. The captain might not be dead. He may just be conked on the head and unconscious. And in the swirling melee and the clouds of gun smoke, nobody can find him. So nobody knows what orders were supposed to be issued. Again, with the fire, this is a case where once the fires have gotten high enough, forget it, strike your colors. We got to put this fire out or we all go and die. In fact, we might take 2 nearby ships with us. I should be pointing at this, right? Because this is one. Just because all of your hull boxes are marked off doesn't necessarily mean that the ship immediately sinks, but it's taking on water. It can't be saved. It's no longer in fighting trim. And the only smart thing to do is for Captain Lenoir to strike the colors. So there is that going on. But again, it's a war game, right? We're doing some abstractions. But by boiling everything down to this and keeping it all right here on the sheet in front of you, it creates a real tension between how much damage can I take and still be able to punch back. If we had been able to fire one more broadside with the Marengo, if the order cards had come up a little different, the Marengo might have been able to fire that last-minute shot at point-blank range that could have been devastating to the HMS London. But as it happens, our result was historically accurate. A ship with an extra 16 guns. If these are 32-pounders, remember, we're dealing with an extra, 500 pounds worth of shot? They have the advantage. If we had a historical result where the Marengo got off a couple of lucky shots, that could happen. There's room for that. It's a very complicated setup here. Or maybe the Marengo would have shot away a mast and been able to escape. That would have been acceptable for the French as well. Either way, I think this is kind of a nice little game. I could see me playing this again. I don't know how many ships you could handle with this. Probably limited by only to your table space, right? But I do think the other thing to point out is that if you had multiple ships, then you would limit the fight to the tabletop. You wouldn't do any of that jockeying for position. And I think sailing upwind would take on a lot more relevance as you're going to do a lot more tacking and wearing into the wind to stay on the fight and keep that side of your ship facing the enemy. So not a full example of what Blood, Bilge, and Iron Balls is all about, but certainly a good introduction. I'm glad you came along for the ride. We'll see you next time. I'm praying for you.